Detective Asham. She's implicated throughout it. She's implicated for personal reasons, and I do not take any joy in doing this right now, Your Honor. This was hard for us to make decisions on how to do this last night, but this is such a serious case, we have no choice. In going through the report, there are incredibly disturbing details. There's discussion of deleting emails, deleting files. There's recommendations from the firm that went through this that the entire office needs training on Giglio, and I'm summarizing what I've seen, but it goes on to say that lying is part of the daily course of business at the Minot Police Department, on and on. And again, I'm summarizing because I don't want to go through the quotes, which I assume Your Honor has looked over here from that report. But it's an absolute bombshell. Detective Asham is not only the case agent in this case who's on the trial team and sitting through this, she was the lead investigator on this case after Detective Talbot left. And as this comes to light, I'm sitting here on my phone seeing that Rob Port has published this report independent of our filing of it based on a FOIA request he did at I think 12:09 today. It begs the question for me when the state knew about this, when Rob Port got this. I know there were redactions that were done. The fact that it's such a bombshell and it was disclosed to us yesterday, moments before trial. I actually disclosed to us, I know there was the phone call on Sunday saying there's some impeachment evidence regarding Ms. Asham. Honestly, our arguments for dismissal we believe are completely valid on every front, all three arguments. This one we thought was going to be our weakest, and we now believe is absolutely our strongest, based on the incredible things we're reading in this report. And it's a thick report. I know it's 57 pages. It's top to bottom. It's incredible. There's accusations of rape. There's accusations of incredible things. And I know we attached it last night. I know we're moving and grooving, and I don't know how much Your Honor has had a chance to review it. But
I made that clear. I've read it all, so
okay.
You may continue.
I didn't hear you say it, Your Honor. I apologize. But first of all, it would have changed our entire jury selection process to talk to people about police misconduct, how they would judge officers, especially officers that are sitting here, if they lie, if they cheat, if they destroy evidence. Again, in reading this, Detective Asham is the one referenced in our Exhibit 1 with the email chain I have with Ms. Sorgan, that it sounds like it kept the CD in this evidence room or whatever they're calling it. It doesn't sound like it was in the normal course of the evidence file for the Ward County State's Attorney's Office. And then I flipped last night and I'm reading that she's texting about destroying emails and files. It's incredible, Your Honor. And I don't know, first of all, I know that the state in one of their prior arguments had talked about a trial by ambush from us based on one of their motions. I can't think of a bigger trial by ambush than what's going on right now. We're getting disclosures regarding the case agent and lead investigator in the case at 7:09 a.m. the morning of trial that blow up the entire police department, that blows up the credibility of their case agent and lead investigator. There is so much work and so much investigation this creates on our behalf that I believe this rises to the level of dismissal. Obviously, we've requested alternate relief in case the court doesn't believe that dismissal should go forward. I'm not going to get into my other arguments regarding the interview with probable cause and the Brady violation. I think they're incredibly important, but I don't want to take up too much of the court's time. I also let the court know in our brief that we did this last night after dinner between then and 1:30 a.m. We were as thorough as we could be. This thing could be 50 pages long, Your Honor. We sat in a hotel room all night putting this together and finally just decided to kill it at 1:30 in the morning. We could have gone until 5 a.m. It's a bombshell on proportions that I cannot describe. I had no idea this was going to happen when we were meeting yesterday, The primary basis for everything we discussed was the Hall interview. As I got into this, I was blown away. I've never seen anything like it in my career. It's the kind of stuff you read about happening in other states. As we speak, articles are being published based on FOIA requests that happened. I don't know when. And I'm just downloading and trying to digest this information. And it's appalling and incredible to me, Your Honor. And I asked that the court on all 3 motions dismiss this case. I ask if the court doesn't dismiss it, that it grants our alternative relief. But I will end by saying, Your Honor, we have done everything we can in this entire trial. We have done everything we can by the book. We have worked with the state's attorney's office, and we have been hit with discovery right before trial again and again and again, and this is the final blow. This is a sledgehammer. In November, we got information regarding newly investigated bug reports that weren't done prior to charging, right before trial. In February, we got hit with another discovery bomb when my brother was sitting there doing the hearing, when the court closed discovery, I believe, on March 4th. Then we get this interview on Friday. Now we get this investigative report that is an absolute bombshell, and I have never seen anything like it, at 7:09 a.m. on Monday, the week of trial, the day of trial. I have not been able to go through it in the depth I would like to. We were racing to get this done yesterday, and like I said, Your Honor, I'm absolutely appalled. I've seen nothing like this in my life in practicing law. I'm sitting here as we're doing jury selection, watching the news come down, front page, front page, front page, from Rob Port on this FOIA request. My guess is this report's about to go national, and it's not because of me. And I'm concerned about what other disclosures are out there. We got this because Rob Port did a FOIA request, and thank God he did it just in time. This is happening over and over again. It's becoming a course of practice, and it's absolutely blowing this case up. And Nichole's family has spent so much money and so much time on attorneys and travel, expert witnesses that are scheduled to come in this week. This is an absolute abortion of justice, Your Honor. And I don't like to get this way. I'm appalled. I've never seen anything like this. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sand.
Thank you.
Ms. Sorgen, do you wish to reply?
Your Honor, as set forth in the state's papers, I'm not going to reiterate what was put forth in our filings on there, but I will address what Mr. Sand has just indicated. First off, I don't even know who Rob Port is. And so he is not the reason that they received their report. We are. We provided it to them as soon as we got it. Now, Mr. Sand's probably going to take issue with that. This was sent after hours to myself and Mr. Nelson on Friday, after hours, as we were preparing to come here. Mr. Nelson got alerted to it while he was driving on the road on Sunday to come here, called Mr. Sand immediately after that. He called Mr. Sand before he called me. I found out about this after Mr. Sand did, Your Honor. Upon checking this, making sure that we could even get at the email with the Wi-Fi situation, it was then forwarded, which the earliest that could happen was Monday morning at 7 a.m. And my apologies for how that is late, but unfortunately there's no opportunity to have changed that, Your Honor. It was not in our hands until later in the afternoon on the 14th. And again, because of the email and preparing to come here and getting it all together, it got forwarded as expeditiously as I possibly could on that point, Your Honor. As to this February discovery bombshell, I think we established that at that February hearing. It was 2 copies of digital maps that were sent over as part of the Axon transfer with the information. The interview on Friday, I addressed that in our papers, Your Honor. I'm not going to go into that any further. That's information that was available to the defense, could have gotten to the defense had they bothered reviewing their discovery before that and determined that it was an empty file. Could have been done within due diligence, and I addressed that in our response to their allegations on Brady. As to the blowing up the credibility of our case agent, credibility is an issue of the jury, Your Honor. I don't think that this report blows up her credibility. Mr. Sand wants to cross-examine her on that. That's his option. He can do that. I've set forth when the state knew about this report. I can tell you when Mr. Nelson and myself knew about it. And that's exactly when. And I would like to reiterate, Your Honor, that Mr. Sand is arguing that this report implicates Sergeant Asham throughout. Please note, this is a report regarding Lieutenant McLeod. Sergeant Asham is mentioned in it tangentially with regards to a relationship with McLeod and inappropriate behavior on McLeod's part. Information that was contained therein that may pertain to Sergeant Asham, again, that's something that can be either cross-examined on or, as we set forth in our paper, if the court wishes to allow for a pretrial deposition under Camp Rood for the defense, that's permissible, and that's the remedy that's outlined by the North Dakota Supreme Court. The conclusions of that report, Your Honor, again, are in large part due to the behaviors of Lieutenant McLeod. I can't reiterate enough that this report is titled McLeod Complaint Report. It's not the Asham report, as the defense wants to put it in their papers. It is the McLeod report. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Time is 3 minutes after 3, and the court's going to go off the record. I'm going to take 12 minutes, and then I'll be back. All right, we're back on the record. The time is 17 minutes after 3 o'clock. I took a few more minutes than I told you I would, but it had nothing to do with what I was reviewing. It had to do with another issue. That issue is the court has dismissed. Let me find him again here. Which one? Yeah, the court has dismissed juror 44, which is Mr. Eric, for a medical reason. I did that on my own motion. So, as to the motions before the court, Mr. Sand, I very much appreciate your intense argument with regard to the dynamics of this matter. And so I'm going to try and address these on the record. I will follow up my response with a written order that we will follow sometime either today or tomorrow. But this is where we're at. On the failure to disclose the Devin Hall interview, this was an interview that took place back on September 10th of 2008. It took place in Wolf Point, which is, I understand, a town in Montana. This was an interview of Mr. Devin Hall. Devin Hall was a person of interest with regard to this case. It's my understanding that this was a follow-up interview, that a previous interview was done with Mr. Hall while he was incarcerated in the Ward County Jail within 2 weeks of the crime in this case. He was, at that time, specifically a person of interest. He continued to be a person of interest throughout the investigation. It is my understanding that the follow-up interview that was done is the one that's of interest here, and that, if I understand the dynamics correctly, that the defense did have this interview in the sense that it was disclosed by the state, that the file that they disclosed was empty, as was the file that the state had. It then went from that emptiness, once it was discovered, to tracking it down, that it was being held somewhere else, in a more solid form than on some kind of digital platform. But it was disclosed back in May of 22, so May 16th of 2022, when it was originally disclosed. I would also note that in a review of the preliminary hearing that the court did, that Attorney Becker, who was part of the team that was representing Ms. Rice, did in his cross-examination of the state's witness for that hearing allude to a re-interview to the officer that took place in Wolf Point approximately about a year after the original interview, which took place again in the summer or early fall of 2007. That would fit the time frame of the interview in Wolf Point in September of 2008. So Mr. Becker did not specifically say that interview or gave a date and time, but he did make reference to the interview being over about a year later than the original interview. So I don't know if it's the same one or if there's a third one somewhere else. That part's not knowledgeable to me. But I do find that the state, or that the defense did know about it. The fact that neither the state nor the defense knew that the file that was shared was empty. But again, I find that the defendants or the defense could have obtained that knowledge of it being empty and obtaining the actual interview with reasonable diligence on their part. So that having been said, in finding that conclusion, that would be, I guess, item 2 of the Brady review as to any violation by the state. So on that point, the court will not dismiss this case, nor will there be a remedy for the defense in regard to their motion. As to the second part of their motion, failure to disclose the report that was received by the state based on the information that the court has, sometime late last week or over the weekend, this report was the bombshell, as Mr. Sand described it. And then again, he lists this as a Giglio violation, again, that being reference to a particular case. The criteria for that is the same as Brady. It's just that it's expanded it from the evidentiary portion to actual witnesses. That the disclosure of the information that could be used by either party for the purpose of impeaching a witness is now part of that Brady review or the same criteria. In regard to that, the court finds that under number 3 of the Brady review, there was no suppression by the state. Also found that whether or not that information would reasonably change the possible outcome or make a difference, the possibility of a different outcome, the court does not find those as being appropriate in this case. The court would, however, allude to the fact that because that report came late, again, having nothing to do with this trial per se or the people in it, other than, as Ms. Sorgan said, the tangential reference to Officer Asham, the court is inclined to give the state some time, if they wish to do so, to do a deposition of Officer Asham in preparation for her testimony and your ability to cross-examine that. As to count 3, this is the request in regard to there not being sufficient probable cause. Again, this would be with regard to Devin Hall. The court denies that motion aspect also based on the court having reviewed, again, the preliminary hearing information, having reviewed the actual September of 2008 interview of Mr. Hall. The court finds that the outcome of the probable cause hearing, the preliminary hearing, would not have been any different. The information that was shared at that preliminary hearing is not changed or modified or in any way would have affected the court's decision at that time based on the hearing of that September 2008 interview with Mr. Hall. As a matter of fact, the court's thought is that it did nothing in addition. All the information that was shared at the preliminary hearing was sufficient for the court to make its finding, and that additional interview would not have changed that one way or the other. Again, I want to make clear that the court is aware that the current report having been made was specific to a Lieutenant McLeod, who was part of the Minot Police Department. And I will go with Mr. Sand's position that the information in that report is horrible, for lack of a better term. It's disgraceful. It's scary. I get all of that. But again, I don't believe that it is directly causal to this particular case, and I didn't find any connections in the report that would bring it to that level. What I did find is, again, credibility of the possibility of a witness, specifically Officer Asham, if I keep saying that right, I apologize if I don't, but that will be for the purview of the jury. Accordingly, the court will give the state an opportunity to depose Officer Asham. She will make herself available, and the state is required to do that. She will be available from this point forward all the way until 1 o'clock tomorrow. The idea would be, I know you need preparation work to do a deposition. I know you have to somehow schedule a deposition, and I know you will want to perhaps articulate a review once you've done the deposition with regard to her testimony. My understanding is her testimony is not until sometime next week as a possibility, but again, it may also affect that deposition may affect the possibility of other material witnesses in regard who may be a part of the police department. Again,
Can I ask you some clarification?
No, not at this point. The again, I do not believe in my review of that report that you're going to find that information, but then again, that's not my job. So I'll leave that to the defense to do that if they wish. That having been said, the court is still at this time, based on my denial of your motions, going to go forward with the swearing in of the jury today, and we will do opening instructions and opening arguments, and we will take the first two witnesses today. At that point, we will not be in court tomorrow morning. We will start court again at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Now, Ms. Sorgen, do you have questions?
Yes, Your Honor. You had indicated twice the state could depose Ms. Asham. Did you mean the defense?
No, I meant that the state would make her available. If I said the state would depose her, I apologize. It would be the defense would have the opportunity to depose Officer Asham.
Just double checking,
The state would
Your
make her available.
Yes, we will, Your Honor.
I apologize if I said that. Mr. Sand, other than the look on your face, anything else?
I'm just going to maintain my objections, Your Honor, and I appreciate the court's decision, but I have to maintain my objections. There's a lot more work that this report calls out than just a deposition of one person, and due process is being violated for my client. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. And I do appreciate that, Mr. Sand. And again, that will be your position. It's not the position of the court at this time. All right. Ms. Sorgen, anything else for this hearing?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Sand?
No, sir.
The time is 3:30. I'm going to call the jury back in 5 minutes at 3:35. We will swear the jury in. We will then do instructions and opening statements.
Yes, Your Honor.
We'll be in recess for 5 minutes. Okay, can you let them in? How many? Okay. Okay, Mr. Crane, are you on the line? Mr. Crane? Is Court TV on the line? Is there someone other than who's in the courtroom? Is there any, Mr. Crane, are you on this line? Is there anyone on Court TV that's on this line? All right, they're no longer in. They're out. I'll start, Ms. Sorgan. Is this the jury that was selected? Do you waive roll call of that jury?
State waives roll call, Your Honor.
Mr. Sand, does the defense waive roll call of the jury?
We'll waive roll call, Your Honor, but we will just bring up Your Honor's comment that you dismissed Juror 44.
Okay. You want me to just repeat my rationale for that?
I'm just putting it on the record.
No, I appreciate that. And the court did that. I apologize. Juror 44 had a panic attack. He couldn't breathe. He was distraught. It was unfair to keep him. We have 4 alternates, so I'm assuming we now have 3. I'm not necessarily the best judge of characters, but I was pretty clear that his was real, and it wasn't an act or a show, just so he could get out of jury duty. Okay. Let me make sure I got this right here. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm going to give you some instructions at this time.
Your Honor, we do have one juror who needs hearing assist.
I'm sorry?
We have one juror who needs hearing assist.
She has changed.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
She has changed her mind on that, and I
Okey-dokey.
apologize. Thanks for reminding me, Ms. Sorgan, because I said I was going to put it on the record. So she has said that she did not want to do that. And again, thank you, Ms. Susan. We appreciate that. Go ahead. I'm going to have the jury swear an oath.
Would everyone in the jury panel please rise and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you will consider all the evidence in this case, follow the instructions given to you, and deliberate fairly and impartially and reach a fair verdict, so help you God? If so, please signify by saying, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Are there any nays? Thank you very much. Please have a seat. Members of the jury, before we start the trial, I'm going to give you some instructions to help you understand and perform your service as a juror. Although these instructions will not be reread at the end of the trial, they are every bit a part of the other instructions on the law that you will receive at the conclusion of the trial. These preliminary instructions briefly outline your duties and the procedure we shall follow in this trial. In these instructions, words of the singular will include the plural. Likewise, words of the masculine will include the feminine and neuter as context requires. During the trial, you will be allowed to take notes. You are not required to take notes and should not do so if it will distract you from giving your full attention to the witnesses and evidence in this case. If you take notes, 1, your notes must pertain to the case, and 2, you should not allow note-taking to distract you from listening to the evidence. When you deliberate, you should rely primarily on your collective recollection of what you saw and heard during the trial. Your collective recollection is probably more reliable than the notes of any individual juror. Your notes are yours alone and will be viewed by no one else. At the end of the trial, all of your notes will be collected and destroyed. They have pads with them. Okay, thank you. This trial will proceed in the following manner. Attorney for the prosecution may make an opening statement outlining their case. The attorney for the defendant may also make an opening statement outlining their case immediately after the prosecution's opening statement or they may reserve their opening statement until the conclusion of the evidence to be presented by the prosecution. The prosecution will first introduce evidence. At the conclusion of all of the prosecution's evidence, the defendant may, but is not required, to then present evidence. After the defendant's evidence, if any, has been presented, the prosecution may present rebuttal evidence. After the prosecution and the defendant have presented their evidence, they will give their closing arguments. The court will then give you further instructions on the law, after which the case will be submitted to you for your consideration and decision. The function of the court and the jury are distinct. It is for me to decide upon the admissibility of all evidence, in other words, permitting proper evidence to be presented to you and keeping improper evidence from you. It is my duty to define the issues and to instruct you as to the law that applies to this case. It is for you to weigh and consider all of the evidence in this case, and it will consist of testimony and of witnesses and exhibits received. In the simplest terms, I do the law and you do the facts. You must be fair and impartial. Everyone is equal under the law. All are entitled to fair treatment. You should not be prejudiced against or biased for a person for such reasons as race, gender, religion, political views, social views, wealth, or poverty. Your decision must not be influenced by sympathy or emotion. This is a criminal action brought to this court by the filing of an information charging that the defendant, Nichole Rice, on or about June 2nd or 3rd, 2007, in Ward County, North Dakota, committed the offense of murder. The defendant pled not guilty to the charge. The defendant pled not guilty. Before the defendant can be convicted, the state must prove all the essential elements of the offense charged beyond a reasonable doubt. The fact that the defendant has been charged with a criminal offense is not evidence and must not be considered by you as evidence. The information merely states the charge in legal form and outlines the issues to be determined by you from the evidence under these instructions. The defendant is presumed to be innocent unless the contrary, the defendant's guilt, is proved beyond a reasonable doubt. If the state has not proved the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, you must find the defendant not guilty. The state must prove all the essential elements of the crime charged by proof beyond a reasonable doubt. In other words, if you have a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed the crime, then you must find the defendant not guilty. The state is not required to prove guilt beyond all doubt, but beyond a reasonable doubt. You should find the defendant guilty only if you have a firm and abiding conviction of the defendant's guilt based on a full and fair consideration of the evidence presented in this case and not from any other source. Evidence comes into a case when it has been offered by one side or the other, and it is received by me. Evidence can be a document, a photo, clothing, or anything we can see, touch, smell, or hear. A witness is a person who testifies under oath, either here in the courtroom or who has earlier testified under oath, and that testimony was recorded, videotaped, or placed into transcript form. A fact can be proved by either direct evidence or circumstantial evidence, or by both. If an eyewitness testifies about what the witness saw, that is an example of direct evidence. If the ground is bare when you go to sleep, but it is covered with a blanket of snow when you awake, this is circumstantial evidence that it snowed while you were asleep. The law makes no distinction between direct and circumstantial evidence. You should give all evidence the weight and value you believe it is entitled to receive. A conviction may be justified on circumstantial evidence alone if the circumstantial evidence has such probative force as to enable you to find the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. You are the judges of all questions of fact in this case. You alone must weigh the evidence under these instructions and determine the credibility of the witnesses. As to these matters, I express no opinion. In performing this task, you may consider those facts and circumstances in the case which tend to strengthen, weaken, or contradict a witness's testimony. You may consider age, intelligence, and experience, strength or weakness of recollection, how a witness came to know the facts to which the witness testified, possible interest in the outcome of that trial, any bias or prejudice a witness may have, manner and appearance, whether a witness was frank or evasive, and whether the testimony was reasonable or unreasonable. If you find a conflict in the evidence, you should reconcile it if you can. If you cannot do so, you have the right to determine whom of the witnesses you will believe, in whole or in part. You should consider the evidence using your common sense and experience. An attorney is an officer of the court. It is an attorney's duty to interview witnesses in advance of the trial and to present evidence on behalf of a client, to make proper objections, and to argue fully a client's cause. However, the argument or other remarks of an attorney, except admissions and stipulations noted in the course of the trial, must not be considered by you as evidence. If counsel or I have made any comments or statements concerning the evidence which you find are not supported by the evidence, you should disregard them and rely on your own recollection or observation. If counsel have made any statements as to the law which are not supported by these instructions, you should disregard those statements. The admission of evidence in a case is governed by rules of law. From time to time, it may be the duty of the prosecuting attorney or the defendant's attorney to make objections, and my duty as judge to rule on these objections. If I state that an objection is sustained, this means that the question may not be answered or the exhibit may not be received into evidence. If I state that the objection is overruled, this means that the question may be answered or the exhibit received in evidence. If I say an answer be stricken, this means that you must disregard an answer that has already been given. You must not concern yourself with the objections or my reasons for these rulings, nor should you speculate as to what the answer may have been. No ruling or statement or remark which I may make during the course of this trial is intended to indicate any opinion by me as to what the facts are. For you alone determine the facts. You alone must decide on the believability of the evidence and its weight and its value. Occasionally, the attorneys may confer with me out of your hearing, or I may excuse you from the courtroom so that a point of law or an objection can be argued. Sometimes these conferences are held at the bench or here in the courtroom. If you are excused from the courtroom, please accompany the bailiffs to the jury room and relax. These are times when we are resolving issues of law or procedure and not facts, which you determine. Your performance of your duty as a juror is vital to our system of justice. Perform your duty without any fear, favor, or passion, and base your verdict on the evidence. I will give you the applicable law. You must decide this case based solely on the evidence presented in this courtroom. This means that during the trial, you must not conduct any independent research about this case, the matters in the case, or the individuals or entities involved. You must not consult dictionaries or other reference materials, search the internet, or use any electronic device to obtain information about this case. Do not obtain information from any source outside the courtroom or visit the scene of any events discussed during trial. During this trial, you must not talk to anyone, including your family and friends, about the case. You must not communicate with anyone about the case on your cell phone or other wireless devices, through email, text messaging, or any social networking medium, including Facebook or Twitter. While you deliberate, you will not be allowed to possess any wireless communication device. The parties have a right to have this case decided only on evidence they know about and that has been presented here in court. If you communicate about the case or do some research, investigation, or experiment that we do not know about, then your verdicts may be influenced by inaccurate, incomplete, and misleading information that has not been tested by the trial process, including the oath to tell the truth and the right to cross-examination. That would not be fair to the parties. Until you deliberate, Please do not discuss the case with any or remain within hearing of anyone who is discussing it outside the courtroom. At the close of the trial, I will provide you with further instructions regarding the law to be applied by you to this case and the procedures to be followed by you in arriving at your verdict. Dated this 18th day of March 2025 by the court, Richard L. Hagar, District Court Judge. Ms. Sorgan, do you wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you have me cut? Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the jury. That's what you are now. You are the jury. As Judge Hager has just instructed you, it's your job to listen to the facts in this case as they are presented. And as Mr. Nelson told you during voir dire, how we do that is through the testimony of witnesses in that witness stand right over there, and through the introduction of exhibits. 18 years ago, 18-year-old Anita Knutson was stabbed to death in Minot, North Dakota. Anita had dreams of becoming a teacher. She was a college student at MSU. And when she was a student at MSU, her roommate was Nichole Thomas Rice, known as Nichole Thomas at that time. The state intends to show you evidence. There was bad blood between these two girls, and their living situation was highly toxic. The state intends to show you evidence that on the early morning hours of June 3rd, 2007, Nichole Thomas Rice stabbed Anita Knutson twice in the chest, killing her. You're going to hear from a number of witnesses who established this timeline. Now, I did a trial back in September. It was another murder trial. And my trial partner made a statement during closing that's echoed with me for a while, where he said, "Crime loves silence." Now, in that particular case, we had a defendant who had killed someone who could have blown the lid off of a pretty big drug operation. But that phrase stuck with me. Crime loves silence. As you have heard, this has been a cold case. Ms. Rice was not charged with this crime until 2022, 15 years after it happened. It's a bit of the tortoise and the hare, slow and steady. Law enforcement took the time to make sure we're the right person. There were some new developments that occurred over the years. You're going to hear testimony with regards to that. But as Mr. Nelson also told you during voir dire, there's some information that was looked back on in a different light. Because, as we all know, sometimes when you hear something in the instant, it means something a little bit more significant once you look back on it. I think that's what they meant then. Or, oh, that really is why that was important. You're going to hear whispers from the past across the void of time that led to these charges. Silent no more. And we are concluded with this case. We are confident that you are going to find Nichole Thomas Rice guilty of the murder of Anita Knutson. Thank you.
Mr. Sand, do you wish to make an opening statement for the defense? You may proceed. Thank you, Ms. Sorgan.
guys hear me all right? Wonderful. First of all, thank you for being here. I know we said that during jury selection. This is a huge commitment. I'm sure it's very stressful. Taking a lot of time out of your lives, and we really appreciate it. Now, as the state's attorney said, you're going to hear a lot of evidence in this case. You're going to see a lot of evidence. You're going to hear a lot of testimony. At the end of it, I disagree with the state. You're going to know after you hear that Nichole did not kill Anita. Now, what happened to Anita is terrible. It's awful. It's every family's nightmare. It's every parent's nightmare. It's every town's nightmare. And Anita died in 2007. We're sitting here in 2025. Now, we talked in jury selection about what changed between now and then. And I'm going to show you what changed. I'm going to tell you what changed. The witnesses are going to show you what changed. It was pressure from a TV show, a nationally syndicated program that came in, worked with the Minot Police Department, didn't dig up anything of substance, but put an incredible amount of pressure on the state's attorney's office, the police department, to bring charges in this case. Now, you're going to hear from the original officers. I anticipate you'll hear from them. They're on the state's witness list. Those are good officers. They worked this case really hard. And they followed up with a lot of people. And they didn't charge Nichole. They didn't charge Nichole because she didn't do it. Nichole got charged after a national media circus descended on Minot. You're going to hear evidence, just like the state said. You're going to hear evidence that they reached out to the FBI to find out who did this. They didn't say Nichole. And I'll tell you who they said. They said it pointed to a man named Devin Hall. And I'm going to come back to that. Every time the police called Nichole, she showed up. She talked to him. She said, "How can I help?" Not everybody did that. Now, this Devin Hall, he was a 17-year-old kid from the Fort Peck Reservation out in Montana. The evidence is going to show you he traveled to Minot. That's where the murder happened. The evidence is going to show you he admitted to possession of the murder weapon, which was a locking knife, like a buck knife, that had an Indian head on one side. At one time, it had Indian heads on two sides, but one fell off. And the evidence is going to show you that when the police showed that knife to Devin, he said, "Is this your knife?" And he's going to say, "I've had that knife." And you say, "How do you know?" "It's missing the Indian head on the other side." You're going to find out that Devin Hall was caught breaking into other women's apartments that weekend through a window. Please listen to that. The state's going to tease that evidence out too, but they're going to try to change how it sounds. It's also important that you're going to look at someone's behavior. Devin Hall, the evidence is going to show you, continued this kind of behavior. And he had implications, not just back on his home reservation, but federally as well. You're going to hear testimony regarding a suspect that was the lead suspect in this case, that ran from the apartment complex that Anita and Nichole lived in. You're going to hear this man was described as a 6'2" Native American young man who was sprinting at 7 o'clock in the morning from that apartment complex to the next apartment complex with blood on his t-shirt. You're going to hear from officer reports. You're going to hear that they worked with the FBI, like I told you, and you're going to hear from other investigations, some of our own, that point to Devin Hall. That's where all the fingers point in this case. On top of that, there was other work that was done in this case that showed other suspects that were much more culpable There was the maintenance man you're going to hear about. The maintenance man who in the morning showed up, found a broken into apartment with curtains and a curtain rod strewn outside that he threw back in. That maintenance man was interviewed, and on New Year's Eve, the next year around, he committed suicide. And the night before he committed suicide, he talked to a friend and said he had something very heavy on his heart. You're going to hear about someone else, the prom date of Miss Knutson. This prom date ended up moving into the same apartment as Miss Knutson, same apartment building, went on to continue to be a sleuth throughout Miss Knutson's, after her murder, and has been sitting in many of these court hearings as we go. He was a prime suspect. The cops describe him as obsessed with Anita. You're going to hear that Nichole had an alibi while this went on. She wasn't there. You're going to hear she did not do this. This is a media sensationalized case. And that's the person they want. They want the roommate, the college roommate. That sells. What doesn't sell is somebody who's dead or an indigent person that lives out in the middle of nowhere in Montana. Nichole sells. And that's what's going on here. And I'm sorry that I get impassioned, but I'm sure you understand the seriousness of this. The state's going to talk to you about a toxic roommate relationship. And I know we discussed this in jury instructions. Siblings, roommates, they fight. There's issues about an unplugged fish tank, about an alarm clock that wouldn't stop going off. The evidence is going to show you people like Nichole don't kill their roommates over that kind of stuff. They don't put knives through their sternums. The evidence is going to show you Nichole Rice didn't do this. This entire case toward Nichole has been an abortion of justice, and it can stop now. And Anita deserves justice. But justice is out there. It's not here. This is a show. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sand.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Sorgan, call your first witness.
State calls Sharon Knutson.
Someone call in Ms. Knutson, please.
I'll go get her.
Thank you. Go over there. Or you can have her come up here, whichever way you want to do it. Sorry. Sandy, are you here? Okay. Sorry, I didn't know what you looked like. Thank you. Mr. Nelson's coming back, isn't he?
Yes. They were on the second floor, Your Honor.
Okay. Are you Miss Knutson? Can I have you come up here, please, ma'am? Watch the step. Okay, there you go. I'm going to have you sworn an oath.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Watch your step, and we'll have you go back over here, ma'am, to the right. Yep, please. Watch the cords. You want to move that podium, too, when you get a chance? Actually, thank you, Mr. Nelson. I was going to volunteer Mr. Young's sand, but that's okay. Well, it's heavy. Okay. Oh, okay. This is going to accident happen here. Yeah. Okay. Can you bring that closer? Yeah. Can you adjust that so it's aimed at her chin, please? No, just the top part. Yeah, just down. There you go. Okay. Mm-hmm. Is it on?
I don't know.
There you go.
Now it's on.
Okay. Austin, is yours on? Okay. All right. Ms. Sorgan, you may proceed.
Thank you. Would you please state your name for the record?
Sharon Knutson.
Get a little bit closer to the microphone.
She can't. Bring it a little closer to her if you could.
Can't.
Ayla, just
Sharon
slide up.
Knutson. How's that?
Okay. Let's just try it one more time.
Okay. Sharon Knutson.
Thank you, ma'am. You're the mother of Anita Knutson, is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Are you Anita's birth mother?
No.
What was your relationship with Anita?
We adopted her when she was an infant.
How old was Anita when she first came into your care?
6 months.
Can I interrupt you? What? Well, it's not on.
Oh, it's still not on.
Push it. The green light has to come on.
Right. It was on, and I moved it, and it went off.
All right.
Okay.
Let's just start from the beginning one more time.
Sounds
please.
good, Judge.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. We've established that you're Anita's mom, right?
Right.
Okay. But you're not her birth mother.
No.
And what is your relationship with Anita?
I was her adoptive mother.
How old was she when she came into your care?
6 months.
Did you have other kids?
Biological kids, and they were all grown.
Okay. Did you have any other adoptive kids?
Yes.
Okay. And how many other adoptive kids did you have?
3.
Did Anita graduate from high school?
Yes.
Where did she graduate from high school at?
Velva, North Dakota.
Okay. And Anita was living with you at that time, is that right?
Yes.
What did Anita do after high school?
She went to college in Minot.
Okay. Which school did she attend?
She went to Minot University
Minot State?
in State.
Did she go right away to school or did she take a gap year?
She went right away
What was Anita studying?
to be a teacher.
Permission to approach, Your Honor.
You may.
Sharon, showing you what's been marked as for identification as State's Exhibit 1. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a picture of Anita.
When was that taken?
When was it taken? Oh, gosh, I don't remember. I
How-
think it was in high school.
Okay. Is that a fair and accurate photograph of Anita?
Yes.
How old was she in that picture, approximately?
It's like 17. She was 17 when she graduated high school.
State moves to introduce Exhibit 1.
Mr. Sand.
No objection.
State's Exhibit 1 is received without objection.
Permission to publish.
You may.
This was your daughter? Is that correct,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Sharon, where did Anita live while she was going to college?
She lived the first year of college. She lived in the dorms.
And did there come a time that changed?
The second year of college, she got an apartment with a share person.
So she shared an apartment with somebody, is that correct?
Right.
Where was that apartment located?
North Hill.
In what city and county?
Minot.
And what county is that? What county is Minot
Oh, Minot. I have no clue at this point in time.
in? Okay,
Sorry.
that's all right. Let's get a few bases on there. Sharon, how old are you?
I'm 80.
Do you sometimes have issues with your memory?
Yes, I do.
All right. Do you recall who Anita lived with while she lived in that apartment?
Nichole
Do you know Nicole's last name?
Rice.
Had you ever met her before?
No, I never met her until after they got the room together.
Okay.
I knew she was Anita's roommate and also in college that first year.
So you had not met Nichole before Anita and Nichole moved into the apartment together?
No.
Had you ever been to the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. How many times did you have occasion to go to the apartment?
Really couldn't say how many, but I would go over with once in a while. Most of the time we would meet at the mall and go shopping. Go
Now,
out
when
to
you say
eat.
we would meet at the mall and go shopping, who do you mean we?
Anita and myself.
And how often would the two of you meet at the mall and go shopping?
When she wasn't working or I wasn't doing my stuff that I did in Butte. I had a business.
Okay. And you were living in Butte at that time, is that right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You said Anita was working sometimes. Where did she work?
She worked 2 jobs.
Where were those at?
One was the Fairfield Hotel, and the other one was at a dress shop in the mall, Vanity.
Do you know what kind of hours Anita was working?
Not really. It's just
Now, you said that you had had occasion to go to the apartment. Can you describe the apartment?
it was a nice little apartment. Nita kept it up.
How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms?
1 bathroom, 2 bedrooms.
Do you know what the relationship was like between Nichole and Anita?
From what I got from Anita, it wasn't good.
And why do you say that?
She was kind of scared of Nichole. At least that's how she came over to me. You know, if Nichole was going to be home, she didn't want me over there.
She didn't want you to come over to the apartment?
Right.
How often did you speak with Anita?
Oh, all the time, it seemed like. Daily almost. We have our cell phones and then,
And did Anita have a cell phone as well?
yes, she did.
And whose name was that cell phone under?
Her dad's name. Gordon's.
Gordon. And is Gordon your husband?
Yes.
Now, you said that things were not good between Anita and Nichole.
No, they didn't run in the same circles from what I gathered from Anita. You know, they had separate friends.
Now, you said that you lived in Butte at that
Right.
time.
Mm-hmm.
How far from Minot is Butte?
It's a good 60 miles.
And you said Anita went to high school in Velva. Is that right?
No, yes,
How far from Minot is Velva?
30 miles.
How long does it take to drive from Minot to Butte?
An hour,
And how about from Minot to Velva?
30 minutes.
Now, you said that you spoke with Anita pretty much almost daily. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you remember when the last time you spoke with her was?
Yes.
When was that?
The Friday before she was found dead.
Do you know what was going on when she called, when you had the phone call with her?
No, that night she was over at her friend's house, and she was getting ready to leave to go home, she told me.
Do you know which friend?
Michelle.
That was Friday evening.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any contact with her on Saturday?
I called, but she didn't answer, so I assumed she was working.
Did you hear from her on Sunday?
No, I did not. I called again, and she didn't answer.
So then what did you do when she didn't answer?
We're all busy. We're kind of, I was mowing and stuff. And so I thought, well, Gordon was going to Minot Monday. He can stop and check on her.
Okay.
And he did. I called him and I said, did you check on Anita? And he said, well, he went by her house, her apartment.
Without telling us what Gordon said, okay? You called him and asked him to check on her on Monday,
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
Okay. And do you remember the date of Monday?
At this minute, no.
That's your memory issues,
Right.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the next thing you heard about where your daughter was?
He called one of my neighbors in Butte and had her come and stay with me while he told me on the phone what he found.
And what was that?
He found Anita dead.
What were you thinking in that moment?
It was just kind of just spinning in my head. And my neighbor made sure when I got my car, I went straight home.
How old was Anita when she died?
18.
Now, you said that you had 2 other adoptive kids.
Mm-hmm.
How old were they at that time?
That time they were in high school. One was a junior, one was senior.
And which one of your children was the senior?
Daniel.
How old was Daniel?
At that time, he was 17.
And your other child, who was the junior?
16.
And that's your other daughter, Anna, is that right?
Right.
When you talked about things not being good between Anita and her roommate, was there anything specific?
She would say things like, I have to do this or that before Nichole gets home. Just not comfortable things. One time I went over with her to the apartment, and she said she had to feed the fish so they wouldn't die, because if they were dead when Nichole came home, she was afraid what Nichole would do.
The girls had their own separate bedrooms, is that correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Did they spend time in each other's rooms? Are you aware
No,
of?
not that I know of, anyway.
Do you know if they had access to one another's rooms?
For a short period of time.
And what put an end to that?
Anita had her dad come over and put a lock on her door.
A lock on her own bedroom door.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, we have to have you answer aloud.
Right.
Now, you indicated that your husband is Gordon, is that right?
Right.
How old is Gordon?
Now he's 90.
Does Gordon have any physical impairments?
He has a bad heart. He's 90 years old. He has the typical ailments of a 90-year-old.
Okay. How's his hearing?
Lousy. He can't.
And how about his memory?
Off and on. It's pretty good, though.
Okay. How about his long-term memory?
Long term, he remembers things I forgot.
Now, you indicated previously that Anita had a cell phone, and that was under Gordon's name, correct?
Right.
Okay. Is that how you would contact Anita?
Yes.
How would you talk to her? Did you text message, calls?
No, I called verbally.
Okay. And did you ever text with her?
Not that I can remember ever texting with her.
Okay. Not much of a texter?
No.
Okay. Do you recall where your other two children were at the time that you were informed that
They were
Anita
at
was dead?
They were at school.
Okay. Now, you said that when you couldn't reach Anita on Saturday or Sunday, you assumed that she was working, right?
I assumed, yes.
Okay. Did you take any steps to verify whether or not she was working?
No, I didn't. Because we just didn't.
Okay. Are you familiar with an individual by the name of Tyler Schmaltz?
Yes.
Okay. Who is Tyler?
He was her friend.
Was there anything special about him?
He had some issues about, he wanted her to be his friend, and she didn't want him as that type of friend, but she still stayed friends with him, you know.
Now, when you say she, do you mean Anita?
Anita.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to be a little more than just friends?
Right.
All right. How did Anita react to that?
I think she just kind of ignored that.
Okay.
I never discussed it with her about him.
Now, did they go to the prom together?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
What was the prom arrangement?
She had friends, other male boyfriends that were in high school with her that took her.
Now, were these boyfriends that she was dating, or were these male friends?
They were just male friends.
Did Anita have a boyfriend?
She had one in California that she still kept in contact with.
Okay. Now, let's clarify that for in California. Was there a point in time that you all lived in California?
Yes.
And when was that?
From the time she was born until we moved to North Dakota.
Okay. What year did you move to North Dakota?
2003.
So 4 years before Anita died.
Right.
Okay. So she would have been about 14, if my math's right. Is that right?
She was 15 when we moved to North Dakota.
Okay. And she had a boyfriend from back in California?
Yeah, they phoned each other. They didn't see each other. They just kept in contact.
Did you know how she felt about him?
Kind of like a boyfriend, girlfriend in California. But once we moved to North Dakota, she would talk to him once in a while. But that was about it, as far as I knew.
Now, you said that Anita was friendly with Tyler. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of things would they do together?
She was like a tutor for him.
She would help him with schoolwork, things like that?
Schoolwork, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How did Anita's death affect your family?
Really much, a lot. It's like I can't describe how we felt. It was so bad.
Is there anything in particular that impacted the family?
The loss.
How did your other children take the loss?
Very seriously, a big loss. They're still feeling, well, and Anna is still feeling it because we lost Daniel.
You lost
Suicide.
Daniel committed suicide?
Mm-hmm.
When did Daniel commit suicide?
Oh, gosh. What year was that? Doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but 3 years after Anita died.
3 years later.
Mm-hmm.
When Anita was in school, did she come home very often to Butte?
Not too often. She would come periodically, but with her going to school full time, working 2 jobs, and then I understand she would go to her aunt's house, go to my husband's sister's house.
Okay. Because where did she live?
She lives in Minot. That's a long drive. In the wintertime, it's not a good drive.
An hour on a normal day, correct?
Right.
All right. And in the wintertime, how long would it usually take?
Last week, it took me an hour and a half.
That is a long drive, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mrs. Knutson, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Sand, do you wish to cross-examine Ms. Knutson?
I do, Your Honor, just briefly. I am unable to see her, so is it all right if I stand?
Absolutely it is.
Thank you.
You
She's
want me
too
to
tall
stand?
for you?
Oh, you can stand. Yeah.
No matter, you're just
The
fine.
chair's too short.
Ah, right. First of all, Mrs. Knutson, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Sorry that you have to sit here today. Do you know how Anita and Nikki knew each other?
College, high school,
High school.
and college.
So they met in high school, you think?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And moved in together in college.
Well, yeah.
You're not getting me? Can you hear me now?
Is your
Can you hear-
battery
okay,
back
I can
on?
hold it too.
Well, just make sure it's on, I guess is the key.
Sorry about that. Did you know Nichole very well in high school or in college? Or
No.
They were?
Mm-mm.
Did they go to the same high school?
Yes, they did.
Okay. You said you knew Tyler Schmalz as well?
Yes.
Now, this is a long time ago. This is in June of 2007. Do you recall meeting with the detective Barnard and doing an interview? Right
Yes, I remember it very
a long
well.
time ago. I'm not going to hold you too tight to it here, but I got a couple of questions. If that's
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall Detective Barnard asking you about Nikki at all, about Nichole?
No.
No. Do you remember talking about Nichole to him?
No.
Do you remember any of the conversation?
No. I don't. I know he was rude. He was talking Anita Aunt down like she was a street person.
Detective Barnard was.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of things did he say, do you know?
Well, at that point in time, there was a club on Main Street for all the teenagers.
Do you remember the name of it?
No, I
Club
don't.
101 maybe?
I have no idea.
Okay. What did he say about the club?
That she went there and danced. And I didn't get his point other than he was not making her look like a nice girl.
Was he saying it was like a sleazy kind of club?
No.
What was he
But
saying about the
it
club?
was like he thought she was better than going there.
Gotcha.
You know. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
But she would go and she always went with her girlfriends.
Girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that she went to this club 101?
Yeah, she told me.
And it was like a dance club? Is that
Mm-hmm.
this conversation with Detective Barnard, do you remember if he talked to you about whether Nikki smoked or drank?
No,
Nikki, I'm sorry.
I don't. Oh, no, she didn't.
She didn't.
Not that I know of. And
Do you remember telling Detective Barnard that she didn't, but Nichole did?
that I remember.
Do you remember talking about how Nichole was in beauty college and the house stunk and there was hair dye all over the walls from her?
No, I didn't. I don't remember any of that.
So you're saying Anita didn't drink or smoke or anything like that?
No. That I know.
Do you have any idea about the people that she might have met at this Club 101?
No. She didn't go that often because she was too busy with school and her 2 jobs.
And you said that Nikki did not go to prom with Tyler Schmalz?
I don't think she did. I don't know who she went with.
Okay. But he wanted to be her boyfriend, it sounds like, and she wasn't
Right.
feeling that. Okay. Do you know at the time Nikki died if Tyler lived in the same apartment complex that she
And Nikki didn't die. Anita
I'm
did.
sorry, Anita. That'll be the last time I do that. I apologize.
Thank you.
When
That
Anita died, do you know if Tyler was living in that apartment complex?
No, he did not.
He didn't live in that apartment complex.
Not to my knowledge, he didn't. He lived in somewhere else.
And I know this is a long time ago, and it's
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember telling Officer Barnard that Anita was at Tyler's a lot?
No. No, I never said that.
If I showed you a copy of the transcript of your conversation
Mm-hmm.
with Detective Barnard from June of the 5th of 2007 and pointed you to a certain spot, would that maybe bring your memory
I
back?
doubt it.
Can I show it to you?
Sure.
I'll point right where it's at, ma'am. Okay. So do you see where he says, anything else, Ms. Knutson, you want to add? And you say,
Objection, Your Honor. They're reading from this transcript, which is not in evidence.
No, this is not.
Ms. Knutson, just hang on 1 second. Mr. Sand, did you wish to refresh her memory with that?
that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to point her to the place in the page.
Okay.
I won't read it for her if she can read it. I'm sorry.
All right.
No.
Ms. Knutson, if you can just read it, then he can ask you questions about it. But you need to read it to yourself, ma'am.
Okay, I did.
Okay, then. He can ask you questions if he likes. But
I just want to make sure you read the right part. It's
Right.
right here, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. No, that's not even.
okay, now you need to ask the questions. Take that away.
Mm-hmm.
So in response to the question, anything else, Mrs. Knutson, you want to add?
Objection. He's reading from this transcript, Your Honor.
I'm asking what she responded to.
You're not reading it, just a question?
Yeah.
All right, you can ask your question.
I apologize. After looking at that, do you recall talking to Detective Barnard and telling him she spent a lot of time?
No, never.
Okay.
That I know.
Okay. I know the state had asked you this, Ms. Knutson, but was Anita's death one of the most difficult things your family's ever gone through?
Yes.
I would assume that. And have you guys been hoping for answers since it happened?
Yes.
And hoping for closure and justice?
Right.
And you deserve that.
I would think so.
That's all I have. Thank you, Ms. Knutson.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Serga, do you have any redirect, ma'am?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Sharon, what was your mental state and emotional state like in the days and weeks following Anita's death?
It was a lot of blank. just going through the motions of living. And I had to call her biological family in California and let them know. And it was a lot. It's still hard.
Do you have a lot of active memory of around that time?
Some, yeah.
Okay. But mostly, what is it for you?
What is it? It's to lose a child, regardless whether she's your biological child, but had her all those years. And she had plans, and we had plans for her. It's not there. It's not going to happen.
Do you have a lot of specific memories of what you and your family did in the days and weeks following Anita's death?
Not all of it.
Who handled most of the arrangements?
Gordon did.
Gordon handled that.
My husband.
Okay. Were you involved in it?
No, I wasn't there mentally.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Mr. Sand, anything else?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Is Ms. Knutson here by subpoena?
She is, Your Honor.
Is she excused?
She may be.
Mr. Sand, do you have any objections?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Knutson, you may come and go as you please, ma'am.
Thank you.
Take your time getting down and please watch your step. You may call your next witness, please, Ms.
Your Honor, state's next witness is Gordon Knutson.
All right. I know. We will need to take just a short recess for that purpose. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I apologize, but there is a necessity to do this. I want to give you what's called an admonition. I'm required to give you this admonition anytime you leave this courtroom. This admonition will apply to you the entire time this trial is going on. If I forget to give it to you, it still applies, but I will do my best to tell you. It is your duty to observe the following admonitions during the trial. 1, do not converse with any witnesses, any party, or any attorney in this case concerning any matter. Direct any questions or discuss any problems that you may have with the bailiffs. Do not read about, listen to, or view news accounts of this trial. Until you retire to deliberate your verdict, please do not discuss the case. Do not allow anyone to discuss the case with you. Do not use the internet or other electronic technology in any attempt to learn information about this case or communicate with your family, friends, or anyone else about this case. And do not form nor express any opinion about this case until I've given it to you for your deliberations. I hope to repeat this instruction at each recess. If I fail to do so, it applies to you throughout the trial. All right? Can I make sure the cameras are off? Austin? All right. Please rise. Bailiff, can you escort the jury out, please? 5-4 counselor, President 5-4. No, there he is. Sorry, he's back to me. Mr. Knutson called, please. I should ask, Ms. Sorgan, do you waive roll call of the jury? Mr. Sand? All right, thank you. Go ahead, please. You're headed for that direction over there. Right up front here, sir. Okay, can you there, Mr. Knutson? This over here, Mr. Knutson. Here you go. That's fine. Go ahead then.
Do you solemnly swear to justly, truly, and impartially act as an interpreter and make a true translation to the best of your ability? So help you God.
I do.
Can you tell us what your name is, ma'am?
Sandra Ermentrout,
And you are from what city and state?
Minnesota, Detroit Lakes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The witness, please.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear to truthfully answer the questions you are asked about your qualifications?
Sorry.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
It should, the questions, you can read them.
So we're clear for the record. The ADA assistance is necessary for Mr. Knutson's hearing loss. This would be a real-time translation of the questions asked of Mr. Knutson so that he can read them and then respond verbally. Ms. Sordin, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you please state your name for the record?
Gordon Knutson.
Push the microphone down. There you go. Just name it at his chin. Thank you. Hand it back on. Hold it down. Is it on? Okay, it's good.
Again.
Say that for me one more time.
Gordon Knutson.
Gordon, you're Anita's dad, is that right?
That's right.
How old are you, Gordon?
90.
And you have some hearing loss, is that correct?
Yeah, very much so.
I'm going to speak slowly so that we can follow along for questions, okay?
Okay.
We heard from testimony from your wife earlier that Anita was a college student. Is that right?
That's right.
Where did she go to school?
Minot State College, I guess.
And where did she live while she was going to college?
I don't know the address. It's up in North Hill. I was found it again.
What city?
Minot.
And what county is Minot in?
I know it, but I can't think of it right now.
Does Ward County sound familiar?
That's right.
Had you ever been to Anita's apartment?
Yes.
How many times had you been to Anita's apartment while she lived there?
I believe 4 times.
And what did you do when you went to that apartment?
Well, a couple times just to pick her up, but one time I fixed the in the bathroom, the fan was making a lot of noise, and well, actually, it wasn't even hardly running very good.
Did you ever fix anything else in Anita's house, or Anita's apartment?
No,
Did you ever do any installation of anything in Anita's apartment?
no.
Gordon, how's your memory?
It's like my hearing, very poor.
Okay. Gordon, do you know what school year, what year it was that Anita lived in that apartment?
Uh, 2007.
Who did Anita live with?
Nichole.
Did you ever meet Nichole?
Yeah, when we rented the apartment.
Gordon, I'm going to draw your attention to June of 2007. You were living where at that time?
I didn't get all that. In Butte, North Dakota.
Did you ever have occasion to go to Minot?
Did I ever have occasion to go to Minot? Sure.
You did. Okay. What would you go to Minot for?
Well, we do shopping or whatever. I go there quite often.
You would go there quite often. Did you see Anita when you would go to Minot?
Yeah, but I usually went to where she was working.
Not to the apartment?
Right.
Did Anita have a vehicle?
Yes, she did.
What kind of vehicle did she have?
It was a white panel. I forgot the name of the brand.
That's okay. Was it a sedan, a truck, a SUV, a van?
Well, it was the one that had the side doors slipped open instead of opened in, you know.
But you recognized her car, is that right?
Yeah.
Gordon, do you remember a time when Sharon asked you to check on Anita because she had not heard from her for a few days?
Yes. That was the first thing I did when I went that day.
And And do you remember what day that was?
That was the 4th of June,
In what year?
2007.
And you said that was the first thing that you did when you got there, is that right?
I don't,
Let me ask a better question. June 4th, 2007, you came to Minot, is that right?
yes, that's right.
And Sharon asked you to check on Anita.
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
What did you do when Sharon asked you to check on her?
I said, that's the first thing I'm going to do, is go there.
About what time did you go there?
Well, I think we left right after I had breakfast, and then it takes about an hour to get there, so that's about when I got up there.
Okay. And do you know approximately what time of day that would have been?
Around 10 o'clock.
About 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you check on Anita?
I just went up and knocked on the door, and in fact, several times there was no answer. I tried to see if it was if I could get in, and it was locked.
Then what did you do?
And I had noticed that her car was there, but I didn't, at that time, didn't think too much about it because she a lot of times went with a friend.
Okay. So what did you do next?
Well, I went back to town, because this is in North Hill where she lived, and I went. We all three of us got what we needed. Then I started home, and Sharon called me and said she still couldn't get a hold of Anita.
Okay, I'm going to back you up a little bit, Gordon. You said all three of us. You had other people with you?
I had two friends with me.
Okay. And so then you received another call from Sharon. So then what did you do?
I turned around and went back up to where she lived.
And about what time was that?
I would say it was around noon, I believe. I'm not sure of that.
And what did you do when you got back to the apartment?
I went straight to the manager's office and told him that we couldn't get a hold of Anita and that I would like to see what's going on if she would let me in.
Did you have a key to Anita's apartment?
Did I have a key?
Correct. Did you have a key?
No, I didn't.
Why did you go to find the manager?
To get into the apartment.
Once you found the manager, what did you do?
She said that she could get into trouble if she did that. And I said, you can get into trouble if you don't do it too.
So then what happened?
She got up and got the keys And about that time, the maintenance man was there also, and he stated that he had found a screen from a window of one of the apartments, and he thought it was from her apartment.
So then what did you do?
So on, one of my friends, myself, and the maintenance man and the lady that was the manager walked up there. Only thing is, we walked not to the door, but where the window was.
What did you see when you were at the window?
Pardon me?
What did you see when you were at the window?
I seen Anita.
Where was Anita?
She was just lying in bed just inside the window.
How was she laying?
Like face down.
What did you do when you saw her laying face down?
I told her to get the door open.
You told who to get the door
And she
open?
was already going that direction, and she did open the door.
And who was it that opened the door?
The manager.
Once she opened the door, what did you do?
I just went in, and the door was open to the bedroom, and I walked in, and I checked her, put my hand on her leg, and she was cold.
And then what happened?
I told her the landlady to call the police, please, but I noticed she already was, and so that was.
And did you stay around until the police came?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Did you give a statement to the police?
Yes, not at first, but then he had told me that he wanted to stay around and identify the body before, when they took her away.
The policeman told you that?
And I did that, but then he kept the same person, same police officer came and got me and wanted to interview me at the office.
Okay.
And so we went there, and by that time there was somebody else that had taken care of identifying the body.
Thank you, Gordon. I have no more questions.
Mr. Sand, do you have any questions for Mr. Knutson?
I do, Your Honor, and I'm having the same issue with this computer screen, so I really stand up.
Yes, you may stand up.
And I know we've had mic issues, is that any better?
I talked to her.
Can you hear me all right? Great. Gordon, I'm sorry for your loss.
I can't hear.
I just have a few questions for you. talked with the state's attorney about going to Anita's apartment that day? Do you recall the maintenance man?
His name, no, I don't.
Do you recall talking to him that day?
The only thing I know about him after that was in the paper he committed suicide.
Okay. Did he get the screen for you that you were talking about earlier?
Yes.
And he thought that was Anita's screen?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see where the screen was?
No, I didn't. He said it was about out in the middle of the lawn.
Okay. Did he tell you anything about curtains or a curtain rod from Anita's room?
No.
He didn't tell you that he had thrown the curtains and curtain rod back in her room earlier?
I don't remember that, no.
Gordon, do you remember doing a deposition a couple of years ago with Ms. Sorgan and Mr. Becker from our office?
Right.
Do you recall talking about the maintenance man and what had happened at that deposition? I can rephrase that if that's hard to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do you recall discussing the maintenance man with Ms. Sorgan and Mr. Becker at the deposition?
Right, I recall that. And what he was asking me, well, how many feet away the screen was. And I said, well, I really don't know. He said, well, was it 5 feet or 10 feet? I says, no, more like 100.
Do you recall
He
specifically?
didn't ask me any more about that.
Do you recall specifically discussing how it could have been that the maintenance man didn't see Anita's body?
No, I didn't talk about that. I wondered about it because as soon as I got a few feet away, there was a flower bed, and, you know, outside at the bottom, so you couldn't get too close without walking in it. But yeah, I knew something was definitely wrong.
Okay. If I showed you a page from that deposition, would that help refresh your recollection?
Yeah, I know I made some mistakes on there. Go ahead.
It's okay. I'm not saying it's a mistake. Are your eyes okay for reading this?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Knutson, can I have you just review from here to the bottom of the page.
Oh, that sounds right.
Okay. And so does that refresh your recollection of that conversation a little bit? Does that help you remember that conversation a little bit?
Yeah.
So, if Mr. Beck, do you recall discussing a maintenance man with Mr. Becker?
Is that what the maintenance man's name is?
No,
I
that's the attorney.
I don't understand that question.
Sorry. I've shown you this page from the deposition.
Yeah.
Does that help you recall this conversation you had with the attorney at the deposition?
Yeah, I guess it does, but I can't figure why he was asking me where I found it, because I didn't find it.
Well, again, I can show this to you again. It's not about the screen. It's about whether or not you thought the maintenance man could see Anita's body. And then you had said, I'll have you look at it one more time, sir, if that's all right. Just from this line, and this is the most important line right here, if that would refresh your recollection.
I don't know what you're getting at, so I just...
Did you tell Mr. Becker unless he was blind, he wouldn't have seen her?
All I wanted to do was get away from him asking me where the way he put it, I'm the one that found them, and I didn't. He's the one that told me where it was.
You're talking about the screen? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm talking about Anita's body. Unless he was blind, he wouldn't have been able to see it looking in that window. Because it sounds like you saw it right when you looked in, correct?
I don't know what you're getting at. I don't understand what you're getting at.
I understand that with this card system, it's difficult to understand. When you looked in the window, you had testified earlier that you were able to see Anita, correct?
Right.
And when you discussed with Mr. Becker, whether the maintenance man would have been able to see that, I've had you read it a few times.
If we were standing at the same place I did and he was,
Right.
he should be able to see that it was him. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Now, Was there anything else in particular you noticed about the scene?
No.
No. Okay. Now, I asked your wife the same question, but I'm sure you want justice for what happened, correct?
Yeah.
And you believe you deserve it, correct? Okay. That's all I got, Mr. Knutson. I appreciate it.
Ms. Sorgan, do you have any redirect, ma'am?
Very briefly, Your Honor. Gordon? When Mr. Sand just asked you a question about you standing at the window, you said you knew something was definitely wrong. Why did you say that?
Well, when I seen her laying there, I figured she was dead.
What did you see of her when you looked in the window the first time?
I thought she was dead.
Specifically, what part of Anita did you see when you looked in the window?
Objection, Your Honor, would be on the scope of cross here.
No. Objection's overruled. You opened it up with what was seen by the maintenance guy or should have been seen by the maintenance guy, so no.
So Gordon, what part of Anita's body did you see?
This is going on. Mainly her head, because she had a blanket over her.
What color was the blanket?
It was a dark reddish color.
What color was Anita's hair?
She had black hair.
She had black hair and she was with a dark blanket on her bed. Is that right? Do you remember if the lights were on or off when you looked in the window in the bedroom?
They were off.
Thank you. I have no more questions.
Mr. Sand?
Nothing else, Your Honor.
All right, is Mr. Knutson here by subpoena, Ms. Sorgan?
He is, Your Honor.
Is he excused?
Yes.
Mr. Sand, do you have any objections?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Knutson, thank you for your testimony. You are excused, sir. You may come and go as you please.
You can step down.
Watch your step, please. All right, it's 36 minutes after 5 o'clock. We're going to rest for the day. Just real shortly, Ms. Sorgan, anything before I let the jury go?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Sand?
No, Your Honor.
The jury, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, we're going to have you come back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. That's the plan. Other things have to take place tomorrow morning. So again, I appreciate that you came back today at 1, and you're going to be coming back tomorrow at 1. I realize it may seem a little disjointed, but actually it's not, just from your perspective, maybe. I'm going to give you my admonition again. It is your duty to observe the following admonitions during the trial. Do not converse with any witnesses, any party, or any attorney in this case concerning any matter. Direct any questions or discuss any problems you may have with the bailiffs. Do not read about, listen to, or view news accounts of this trial. Until you retire to deliberate your verdict, please do not discuss the case. Do not allow anyone to discuss the case with you, and do not use the internet or other electronic technology in any attempt to learn information about this case or communicate with your family or friends or anyone else about this case. And please do not form nor express any opinion about this case until I've given it to you for your deliberations. I hope to repeat the instructions at each recess. If I fail to do so, it applies to you throughout the trial. And again, this case is noteworthy by media. Please do not participate. Please rise. Parties are still present. Mr. Sand?